Hello, my name is Zara Hoffman. I'm a self-published author of young adult paranormal romance, and in a few days I will also be a self-published author of new adult sci-fi romance. You can buy my book in the links down below, and I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. We made it to 2021. I really hope it's going to be the year that we all hoped 2020 would be, and even better than 2020, although I have no doubt that it will be. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing Autumn Ashley's story idea tag. She posted her video back in November, and I wanted to do the video then, but I had other plans for my AuthorTube schedule, so I'm finally doing it now. I have over 40 ideas, so this might be a long video, so buckle in. I'll try to keep all my story descriptions short and to the point, and let's dive on in. My first three stories that I'm going to talk about are actually already published. They are the three young adult paranormal books that I mentioned in my intro. They are all part of the Belgrave Legacy trilogy. They are about a young witch, her angel soulmate, her twin witch brother, her siren best friend, and her werewolf ex-boyfriend, and their different love stories. The stories were something that just wouldn't leave me alone. That is a theme with all of these, and it is the reason why my list is so long, because I never throw away a story. It just sometimes gets moved around in when I'm writing it if another story takes precedence, which is what happened with my new adult sci-fi trilogy, which the first book is releasing in a few days on January 5th, and I'm working on the second book. My Stellar Blood trilogy is about what happens after the daughter of a general of Area 51 is kidnapped by aliens, and what the aliens plan to do for our planet, and what she is willing to do to fight them. It's a lot of fun to write. It is technically a romance, but I think it's almost more sci-fi than I thought it would be, which is very interesting because it's the first time I'm writing in the genre. It's also the first time I'm writing new adult, which is a little bit scary, but also a lot of fun. So those are three books because it's a trilogy, so I've now covered 6 stories, and there are a lot more to come. The next story is a standalone. I have more series ideas than standalones, but I do have a fair number of them, and my plan is to sprinkle them in between my series so that I can give myself a break of having to do a lot of world building that is required for a series that isn't necessarily required for a standalone. I'm not saying I don't world build for all my stories, but you know, when you have to keep it consistent across multiple books, it becomes more complicated. This standalone is called I Killed Anna Walsh. It is kind of like Bully by Penelope Douglas meets 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. It is going to be a new adult book. It is also my first book that I plan to write completely from the male perspective, and also my first book and potentially only book with a non-sympathetic protagonist. So very scary to tackle, but I'm excited for it, but I won't be touching it until after I finish the Stellar Blood trilogy. Next is The Matchmakers, another standalone. It is a young adult dystopian, and I am very excited to get back to it. I had started working on it, I believe, in 2015 as part of my creative writing final project in high school. I was able to take creative writing instead of a normal English class as senior year, which was a lot of fun. I finished writing the first half of it back in 2017, and I was working on it for my nano project in 2020, but I didn't get that far into it because I found myself doing a lot more revising than I thought I needed to. And I was writing new words, but it wasn't enough to win nano by any stretch of the imagination. The next one is another standalone. It is a steampunk adventure that involves time travel. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to involve a lot of research, so I don't know how long it's going to take me to actually write, but it'll be fun. I plan to publish my Fearful Fairytale series in a large span of time because I want each book to be released on a date that is somehow tied into the story that it is retelling. So there will be standalones sprinkled in between my publishing these fairy tale books, but I'm going to talk about all my fairy tale books right now as a group. I'm going to be retelling Cinderella, The Wizard of Oz, The Little Mermaid, Prince and the Pauper, Little Red Riding Hood, and Alice in Wonderland. And yesterday on the 31st, I decided that I'm also going to be doing a Rapunzel retelling. So those are 7 books. I have potential titles for other books in the future, but I don't have stories for them yet. So for now, the series will be 7 books long and take a while to come out and a while to write, but I am very excited for them. They will all be 3 young adult stories, but they will all be pretty dark and tied into different causes that I will be donating proceeds from each book to. I'm going to be writing a police thriller called Silence Falls. It's kind of like a seemingly supernatural version of Silence of the Lambs, but in truth there actually is no supernatural forces at play. Next is a standalone called Eve is Dead. It is a young adult contemporary speculative fiction where 2 best friends who are polar opposites die and are sent to limbo and are forced to convince the panel that the other should go to hell in order to ascend to heaven themselves. It is kind of like Defending Your Life, but more drama. Next is a standalone called Kingpin Killers. It is a spy thriller. It is kind of like Nikita, but I like to think that I'll have more twists to it. It is gonna be a new adult book. When I first conceived of it, it was gonna be young adult, but I think the more I consider what I want to happen in it, it's gonna have to be a new adult book. I have a standalone called My Name is Anarchy. I recently got the cover from Astra Anchor, which is Keelan Rivers' cover design business. It's beautiful. It's really cool. I'm not going to be revealing it for a while though, so sorry for teasing you all. But it is about a girl who kind of goes a little bit nuts after she has a breakup with her boyfriend after discovering he's cheating. She's not clinically crazy by any means, but she gets a little reckless, and I'm just excited to write a story like that. Next, I have another trilogy. It is a new adult romance. It is contemporary, and it is about a college group of friends who fall in love with each other through a dating app, and each book will focus on a new couple. I have a standalone called The Confessions and Autobiography of Warrick Black. It might be an adult speculative fiction, kind of alternate history of a freedom fighter's descent into becoming a tyrant, based around the idea that if you don't die a hero, you can live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So I'm excited for that. It's also going to be completely from the male perspective, which will be interesting, but I think this character will be more sympathetic than the one in I Killed Anna Walsh. Next, I have my Reluctant Royals quartet. It's gonna be quasi-historical romance. Their first book is about a girl who kind of through a Cinderella type ball meets the prince, and he falls in love but she doesn't, and he kind of has to convince her to marry him. And then the second book is actually a prequel, and it's about his parents. And then the third book is about his friend and the first girl's sister. And then the final book is about the first prince's sister and a guy. So that'll be fun. I think it will be young adult. It might become new adult though. I haven't fully decided. Then I have the Forgive Me trilogy. It is adult contemporary romance. It was initially going to be new adult, but the concept for each story is that it is a second chance romance where the couple is together when they're younger, something goes wrong, and then years later they reconnect. So I figured that in order for the years later to really work, they should be adults by the time that the main story is taking place. So they're now adult contemporary romances. I have a standalone called Murderous Mary where I will be retelling the Bloody Mary myth. There are multiple versions of the myth, but I will be going off the idea that it was a young girl, not Mary Tudor or even the countess who supposedly bathed in young girl's blood. It is going to be set around the Salem witch trials. It's not specifically tied into it until after she dies, but it is kind of going to be like the Crucible. I have a upper young adult or potentially new adult standalone contemporary romance plan called First, where a girl decides to have a checklist of firsts that she wants to try out, and when her best guy friend finds out, he tries to convince her that she should do all of them with him because he's been in love with her for a very long time. I have a 6-book high fantasy series planned. I think they will be new adults. I don't really have much of a plot plan for these yet actually, but I have all the titles, so I will eventually come around to the plots. romance. I have a standalone dystopian paranormal fantasy book called Never Tell. It is gonna be young adult. It is actually placed in my friend's world, but it's gonna be tangentially related to his world. There might be a cameo of my characters in his series when he eventually publishes them. Magic has been outlawed as technology is starting to take over the world and people with magic have to be underground. I have another speculative fiction called Past Lives Inc. It is not going to be set in the same world as Eve is Dead, but the idea is that if you pay a certain company called Past Lives Inc. a lot of money, you can see your past lives and potentially learn the lessons that you need to learn in this current life. I have a 6-book adult contemporary romance series planned. It is going to be basically all of the classic romance tropes that you can ever think of, but I am very excited to write them. I think they're going to be a lot lighthearted than most of my other story ideas, so when I eventually get to them, it'll kind of be a breath of fresh air. And that is all my stories that I'm planning to write under my name. I have 3 stories I'm planning to write under a pen name, but I don't really want to talk too much about that because I'm going to be keeping it separate and I'm never going to share the other pen name on this channel because the genre is so different from what I've talked about in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell icon down below so you don't miss any future videos from me. I make videos about my writing, about musical theater, and I host writing sprints every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to do this tag, please make a video about all your stories and don't forget to tag Autumn Ashley in her original video because we should all give credit where it's due. And I will see you all with another video very soon. Bye!